You're listening to 3 in 30 Takeaways for Moms, and this episode is sponsored by K-12, tuition-free, online, accredited public schools for kindergarten through 12th grade. With another school year fast approaching, I want you to know about this resource for families. K-12 Powered Schools is designed to help your child learn at their own pace, in their own place, with an engaging curriculum that supports individual learning styles. It can be isolating for families who need alternative learning options for their children, and K-12 is a great one to look into. This is different from homeschooling where you are the teacher. K-12 Powered Schools has state-certified teachers that are trained online educators. They utilize hands-on, innovative technology to make learning interactive. And in case you're wondering, K-12 Powered Schools even offers extracurricular activities and in-person events. They have more than 20 years' experience helping students gain the skills they need to thrive in the future. Join the more than 2 million families who have been served by K-12 and empower your student to reach their full potential now. Go to k12.com/3in30 today to learn more and find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/3in30. k12.com/3in30. Welcome to 3 in 30, a podcast to help you feel more like yourself within your motherhood. Each 30-minute episode features 3 actionable takeaways to help you become a more self-assured mom, someone who knows yourself, honors your needs, and loves your people. Listen in to feel encouraged as we learn together how to overcome overwhelm and find more magic in motherhood. I'm your host, Rachel Nielsen. I'm so glad you're here. Depending on where you live in the country and world, it might be back to school season for you right now. My kids still have another month of summer break, and I think we're all grateful for a bit more time. But I will admit that I'm starting to get the itch of wanting to get our lives more organized again and back into a more predictable routine. Going back to school always feels like a much-needed reset after a fun summer. And in today's Encore episode, one of my dear friends, Mika Perry, is going to help us with some ideas for how to organize ourselves and our homes in a way that will help us to honor our needs as we head into a new school year. Honor your needs is one of my 3 pillars of self-assured motherhood, and this can be a sensitive subject for moms because taking care of our families is all-consuming at times. We know we need to take care of ourselves, but it takes a lot of troubleshooting, flexibility, and boundaries. My friends, I just want you to know you are worth it, and honoring your needs and creating routines is going to be unique to your situation and season of life, which is why I knew I wanted to re-air this episode with Mika about creating back-to-school routines. Mika is a former professional organizer who has a creative eye and gentle approach when it comes to organization that is personalized to you and your unique needs and personality. If you feel like you may benefit from more support as you explore how to know yourself and honor your needs better, I'd love to invite you to look into joining my Self-Assured Motherhood program, which opens this fall. You can text the word SAM to 33777 for more information. I also wanted to let you know that this is the last Encore episode of my summer series. Next Monday, I'll be back with a brand new episode of 3 in 30 for you, so be sure to tune back in for that. I have an all-star lineup of interviews for August and on into the fall, and I'm thrilled to be getting back into the regular swing of things with 3 in 30 now that the summer is starting to wind down. So with no further ado, here is my interview with Mika Perry. Mika, welcome to 3 in 30.
Thank you, Rachel. It's so good to be back.
It's so good to have you back, and I've been waiting for this episode for a long time, so I'm ready for you to teach me how to make this school year a little less chaotic and more calm in the Nielsen house.
Absolutely. And what is funny is that when I first started listening to your podcast, just as like a fun exercise, I had a notebook with me and I thought to myself, what would be my episode on 3 in 30 if I were to go on? Because I loved your podcast. I wasn't friends with you at the time. I didn't know you yet. We hadn't connected. And I just thought, if I went on a podcast like this, what would my episode be about? And it was right around the time of summer. We were just ending our trip. And I thought, what are the 3 things for back to school organization? How can moms have a little bit more calm, a little bit more peace, and feel a little bit more put together for the school year ahead? So I'm really glad that it's actually happening. I manifested it.
Yeah, you
I did.
did. And that was about a year ago, right?
Mhm.
And we'd maybe talked once or twice on Instagram at that point, but since then we've become really good friends, which is so
Yeah,
cool that what a year can bring.
honestly, it's so great. Well, today I wanted to share about organization. And I know there's so much inspiration and thoughts around it. Some people
Mm.
can relate to being a fan of organization and they love, doing as a practice in their life. And others are overwhelmed by it and they believe, well, I'm not an organized person. This can't happen to me. Although I relate more to the group that just has always liked being organized, whether physically or with my time, it's something that I can think about doing even as a kid. Um, but when I became a newlywed, when I got married and started sharing a home with someone else, and then when I especially became a mom, and then when I was working full time, I got disorganized. And I realized that I needed to be intentional and I need to really think about putting some things into place to help me to not be overwhelmed. So even though it came naturally to me, you still have to take that step and kind of take action to create that momentum.
Yeah, and different stages of your life, you're going to need to have different systems going that it doesn't necessarily transfer from one stage to the next. You kind of have to reevaluate.
You do, and it morphs and changes and adjusts, and it's a flexible thing. It's not set in stone. There are really simple little things that anyone can do, and just really easy, quick mindset shifts that you can kind of go through and practice in your life that'll turn it around. And organization, I want it to be something that is attainable and enjoyable and positive for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear your three takeaways, particularly for back to school.
Yes. All right. So, my first takeaway is create calm mornings with a solid night routine. Now, I know morning routines, you see a lot out there. I'm a huge believer and a practicer of a set morning routine. And there's a lot of light on morning routine, but I want to bring in a little secret weapon of a night routine because I really believe the key to a good morning routine, or just a good morning in general, that's not crazy, is your night routine. And so rather than scrolling on social, which I'm still guilty of, or watching a show or something, I would say, okay, let me take a little bit of time here. And what can I do to help me in the morning? So, yeah,
Mm,
it's about giving you that space.
yeah. So then what kinds of things do you do the night before to prep, particularly for back to school season? What do you do the night before?
Okay, actually, for back to school, it doesn't change too much for me. So, some of the things that I do is prepping everyone's water bottles and putting them in the fridge. This is such a small step that I started doing a couple of years ago, that it just gave me a peace of mind that it was one less thing to do. Just putting the water in there
Mm,
and putting it in the fridge. Setting out lunch boxes and backpacks. I set the table for breakfast the night before. I put my coffee cup and my Nespresso pods on the counter next to the Nespresso machine. I check my daughter's dance bag for the next day. I love diffusing essential oils. I'm all about a good home fragrance. And what I do is I go around and I fill all the diffusers just with water around the house. So that in the morning, all I have to do is add my essential oils and I can easily turn them on. And then I take whatever I need to take out the door with me the next day. I just place them by the door. So sometimes I have mail, sometimes I have returns, sometimes I have gifts. I have a little place, in my mudroom area, and I just set it right there. So what I encourage, as you're thinking about this, is to think of all the typical routine things that you and your family need every day and just prepare them the night before. And I can honestly say that my mornings in my house are pretty calm and peaceful. Um, and it's because of this preparation.
yeah. And I mean, I totally resonate with this as it's something that I want to do and sometimes do.
Mhm.
And when I do it, mornings go so much more smoothly. In fact, yesterday morning, I had not done this the night before and had to get my kids to a summer camp in the morning. And it ended with me sort of having a meltdown, a mom tantrum about nobody ever helps me. And I'm like trying to get everything and I'm yelling at my kids. And we were 10 minutes late to camp. So that was a little wake up call for me. Like when I have those meltdowns, I'm like, okay, Rachel, you need to take responsibility and get some stuff prepped the night before so that every morning doesn't feel like this. So I did it last night and today went so much better. So there's a little testimonial. And for me, it's less like I feel like you're far down the road of doing this. So you maybe do like your essential oils and things are things you've maybe added with
Mhm.
time, I'm guessing. But for me, just getting the backpacks packed and the lunches packed is all I can handle right now. And that's enough, you know?
Totally, totally enough. And sometimes that's all you can do, but it's like even just the water bottles, but just that one thing done empowers you and takes just one little stressor away
Mm,
in your day. And I think there's two ways you can kind of set up your night routine is one, you can do that. You can just say, you know what, I'm going to start this back to school season with one thing I'm going to prepare the night before. And and that will get you to results, just like you said, you know? But also, you can do it a different way, which is to, like, even close your eyes and envision your ideal, like, morning and what kind of space and what would be done, and then work kind of backwards. Okay, what did
mm,
you have to worry about? What did you not have to take care of? And what were you able to do instead? And then write all that down and then try to maybe practice it all. Because instead of taking it one step at a time, some people work really well with trying to just do the whole thing. Because then instead of getting one thing done, they may be able to get three things done that first try, that first,
mm.
night or morning.
And sometimes doing it all, it's such a dramatic difference that you can actually feel the difference. And
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, now I want to keep this up because it felt
Yeah.
so good, you know? I love the
Absolutely.
idea of visualizing it. That's something that my counselor has me do a lot is
Mhm.
visualize how I want whatever it might be. Like visualize your morning, how you want it to go, or visualize how you want that presentation to go, and that there's real power in that. And I didn't remember this until you were said that about visualization, but I've actually written it out before. Like I wake up in the morning
Mhm.
and I and I kneel by the bed and pray. And then I go and I get a glass of water and I'm like writing it as if it's happening. And then I read over it and remind myself. But for me, like just writing it that one time hasn't been enough to change me.
Sure.
But if I reread that all the time and really committed to it, I'm sure that it would really help me to envision my evening or my morning and the way that I want it to go.
Yes.
So, one question that I had with these night routines, I have every intention of doing them, but by the end of the day, sometimes I'm so exhausted after being a mom all day that I just can't even, like, I can't. So, what suggestions do you have for systems or routines or maintaining your energy so that you can do these things at the end of the day?
Knowing what the end result is, to know what the benefit will be and keeping that in mind. So kind of like getting over it and saying, you know what, I'm tired, but I'm going to do this because it's going to help myself and my family. And that's
Hmm.
important to me. And so I'm tired too, and there's nights that I don't want to do these things. But what really helps me to kind of get in that mode has been to start with the same thing every night. And it kind of
Mm,
becomes ritualistic and it signals like the start of my night routine. It starts that process. So for me, it's actually putting that mug on the Nespresso machine and putting the two pods next to it. Then after that, it's almost like this very habitual ritual routine. And like, okay, next I go here and I do this. And then next I go here and I do that. And then now I do that. And it takes time to build that up, but not too long. I was able to incorporate and practice it pretty quickly. And that's really helped me.
yeah. Well, and I feel like once it's a routine, it doesn't require the same amount of energy and willpower to
Mhm.
do it. You just execute. Your body is kind of executing what you've already decided to do, you know? So that's a really great tip. And one thing that I have thought about as I've thought, how I want more of these night routines is I think my husband and I need to divide and conquer
Mhm.
on, bedtime drags out forever for us. We need to hone down and probably just one of us could put the kids to bed. Like right now, one of us is putting one kid to bed while the other one is it's dragging out forever. Whereas if one of us was downstairs doing the night routine, getting the house picked up and everything, and the other was putting the kids to bed, just little tweaks like that, thinking about like, how can you involve your spouse in this? What things can you give your kids to do and prep the night before, to take responsibility for their own things and to get the family ready to go? These are all things that I've been thinking about as I've been contemplating heading into our new school year.
Yeah, I think a super smart thing to do in anything in life is to delegate. So if you can do that within your family, I think that is a super smart move and it helps them practice too.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a quick break to thank this podcast sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Prep Dish, a meal planning service to set you up for a successful week of recipes that fit your family, complete with a shopping list. My family has packed in lots of work and lots of play this summer, and I especially look forward to the nights when we can all meet together for dinner. For us, that is made so much easier with the help of Prep Dish. We love the super fast meal plan, and they have options for all kinds of dietary needs and preferences. These meal plans require only 1 hour to prep the week's food, and we're not talking boring pasta or plain chicken. Super fast menus include items like tinga chicken rice bowls, grilled salmon over quinoa, and zucchini tomato and goat cheese salad. Once you've chosen a plan, all you have to do is grab their list and go to the store, or even better, place a grocery pickup order, and then follow their instructions on how to batch prep the ingredients in one sitting. It'll have you do things like chop all the veggies and make the marinades, so it's all ready and waiting for you in the fridge, and you can throw a fresh dinner together on a busy summer evening. Almost more than the delicious recipes from Prep Dish, I love how much it helps with my mental load. Having a plan and knowing what we are going to eat for dinner helps me to be a nicer mom because I don't have that responsibility hanging over me all day. If you want to serve healthy, homemade meals without the stress, Prep Dish is offering 3 in 30 listeners a free 2-week trial. Check out prepdish.com/3in30 for this amazing deal. Again, that's prepdish, prepdish.com/3in30 for your first 2 weeks free. Let me know how you like it. This podcast is also sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. If you've been reading my email newsletter, then you know that my husband's dental practice has had a lot of changes and challenges lately. I'm actually going to tell you more about that in an upcoming podcast episode. But for now, let me just say that while Ryan and I are working together to manage it, there is a lot of stress in our life right now, and I have been so grateful for the positive coping skills that I've learned in therapy over the years. Whether you're dealing with challenges in your career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Therapy has empowered me to be the best version of myself and has taught me how to be kind to myself when I'm not feeling like the best version of myself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's convenient, flexible, and suited to your unique schedule, done all online. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. They also offer therapy for teenagers, so if one of your kids needs support, this might be a good place to start. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/3in30 today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/3in30. What's your second takeaway?
All right, second takeaway is to implement simple solutions for all the paper. And you're still a great mom if you throw it away. Now, this takeaway comes from one of the biggest questions I get, which is what do I do with all the paper the kids bring home? First of all, let me just say that as a former teacher, and you could probably relate to Rachel, we just have to send this paper home. Your teachers are not out to get you. They know that, it might overwhelm you, but as a teacher, they want to make sure that you see everything and really what are they going to do with all of the things. So that's why everything your kid touches with a pencil, crayon, glue stick, whatever basically comes into your home. But what I want the listener here to remember is that just because it's coming home doesn't mean there's some sort of sentimental value that lives on each piece and that you need to hang on to it. There is mom guilt and the what if around it associated with making the decision of what to do with all the paper that comes in after school. And when I get these questions, I almost get a sense that these women are asking for permission to let go of it, for me to say, I throw it away, and then say, oh, yay, good. I wanted to, but I wasn't sure. Um, so what I want to stress here when it comes to paper or artwork, and deciding what to keep and toss, kind of like that decision making filter, is that I don't like having a hard rule on it. I think it's a personal decision, and what makes really good organization is when it's customized to your specific needs. That's true in a closet or a pantry, and that's true with what you decide to keep and toss. There's very different, we all have different needs and priorities and emotional feelings around what is important to us and what isn't. Here are the ways that I kind of discern what to keep. Again, these are not hard rules, but just thinking points, some thought work behind, okay, what am I going to keep and not? And this is what I used to advise clients when I'd go into their homes and I would just find mountains of, pom poms glued onto construction paper and every single thing that came back from preschool. And is to keep in
Mhm.
mind, A, does it show a developmental or growth milestone? Is it, they're writing that shows that they're growing and changing and learning? Does it have a handprint or photo? And another one is to, this is a little bit Marie Kondo, but does it spark joy when you see it? So does
Mhm.
it, like, I imagine it being like a little squeeze in your heart when you see that piece? Or does it make you laugh? Or does it make you like put your hand on your chest and just sigh out loud with love? Like, this is so cute. Um, and so
Mhm.
that's kind of maybe like the filter, the decision making filter. And then if yes, you do, those things do happen, then consider keeping it. But if not, then it's okay to toss it. And remember that a selection of curated items will be more interesting and special down the road. Because the reason why you're kind of keeping this is because you want to look back on it down the road, as a memory with your kid as they grow. Um, a special selection is more important and interesting and special down the road than just a huge pile of everything that they've ever made. And so this can
Mm.
apply to like memorabilias and tokens, and things like your kids' artwork and schoolwork.
And I feel like they're much more likely to actually go through it and look at it and love it if there's fewer
Mhm.
things than if it's a mountain and they're overwhelmed and they're like, I'm not even touching that box of mementos. It's too much.
Yes, it's just really overwhelming for everyone. It's been overwhelming for you to keep it all these years and then overwhelming when they start going through it. And then, you
Mhm.
unload it onto them and then they feel the guilt of, "Oh no, mom gave this to me. Now what do I do?" So yeah, there's a lot of like guilt and what if around this piece.
Mhm. Definitely. So what is your
All
system?
right. So my system, this is where I just keep it really simple. So I have one inbox, like a tray on my desk. And this is where all paper all week long goes. And that includes my kids' schoolwork and artwork. So you can kind of imagine this inbox starts to look a little crazy. It doesn't get piled like really high, but it's definitely not organized. But I don't spend time organizing it because I don't have time every single day to do that. I think one mistake sometimes moms can make is that they create a system that requires filing and categorizing and organization like on the front end at the moment that it comes into their home. And then it complicates things and then it's just not sustainable. So, what I have is that I have one place in my house where paper can go, and it's helpful to know that because whether it's on this counter in the kitchen or this counter in the kitchen, or if there's a piece of paper on the floor by the front door, I just know it all goes into my office in this like paper pile. So that's where it kind of lives and gets stored for the week. Then on the weekend, this is when I do make time for myself and I go through it. And then this is when I make the decision to keep or toss. And then I have bins in my cabinet right near that inbox labeled with their names and their age. And then the ones that do make the cut, so to speak, go in there. And then I do that for the
Mm.
whole year. We just wrapped up, this past year at the end of May. And so when that happened, I closed the lid to that. And then I have a closet where I have just all these same very inexpensive, clear, small, like almost like a large shoe bin, basically. It's really the size of a piece of paper. And so I have all
Mm.
those. And then as we've gone through the years, I consolidate them when I notice, okay, this, I don't need a whole box for just this one school year. Can I just make a preschool box? And then it'll start getting smaller and smaller as you go.
Mm. So, at the end of that school year, you just put a
Mhm.
lid on it. It's like a
Yep.
Tupperware,
Yep.
a
Yep.
plastic Tupperware. You just put the lid on it and label the grade and put it like in their closet or
Anywhere.
your storage
Hmm.
spot that you have for
Yes.
it. And then over time, if you want to consolidate them, so you're not ending up giving them 12
Exactly.
plus
Exactly.
boxes at the end, then you
Yeah.
can. I love that. And I'm assuming that you have a set time every week when you go through it, like it's part of your planning for the week or something so that it actually
Yes.
happens.
So I have something called a week start checklist,
Mm.
a pre made checklist. So it's one less thing to, again, like in a routine, I don't have to remember what I need to do on the weekends. I have a checklist of what I need to do, which includes going through that inbox, meal planning, cleaning out my wallet, cleaning my car, deleting old photos off of my phone. So just these like weekly things I can do that really helps me. And I call it week start because I don't consider it like wrapping up the week. I consider it kind of launching me into a good new week ahead. Mm.
Mika, you are not normal. You are amazing. When you said that, you're like, and I do the photos on my phone. I was like, wow, you are superhuman. It's like, it's super awesome that you do
Yeah, but
this.
I still have a lot of photos on my phone. I'm don't be fooled. And there are weeks that I can't do that on the weekend. So I can't do it, but the thing it just reinforces the importance of those routines for me because I notice how the photos build up, how my wallet looks like a disaster, my car looks like a total mess because I didn't dedicate time towards it.
Right. And I say that in the
Oh,
most
I
loving way.
know.
I hope
I
you know
know.
that because we're because we're good friends and I'm always like, "You're not
It's
normal. You have essential oils in your car, like diffusing in your car." I love it. It's, I aspire to have some of your
You're so
organization.
sweet, but it's so easy and it's so good. Like, I just want everyone to have this in their
Yeah.
life, you know?
Yes, I totally and I definitely want a piece of it. And I do have one system in my house. I have one where when the kids walk in the door, I immediately go through their backpack and toss all the a lot of the crap right then. But even still then, like a lot of times there's some decisions that need to be made on some of the stuff that's not immediately
Mhm.
tossable. And that's where my system breaks down because I don't really have a good inbox or place after that. And so you're inspiring me to add that
Yeah.
in to my loose after school
It's
routine.
so simple. It's just one place where everything lives, and I think that's really important to remember, and actually that leads to my third takeaway, and that
Hmm.
is to create zones in your home to help eliminate decision fatigue and create predictability. So, routines I want to emphasize are not about rigidity. It's not about being, not spontaneous and being so strict with your life. It's actually about creating boundaries and creating flow in your home and in your life. And that alleviates the decision fatigue and overwhelm you can experience on a daily basis, especially as you go back to school. And there's so many meetings and things you have to buy and prepare and get ready and also get used to the new back to school year or the new school year ahead. And it's routines create the space for the things you love and that matter to you. And it's actually really freeing. I consider it as a freedom
Hmm.
in your life.
I read the book Essentialism a while ago, like years ago, and there's a line from it that I still remember years later. He said, build a routine that enshrines your
Mm,
essentials. And I love that verb enshrines, like make sacred the things that really are the essentials that you want to bring into your life. It's like you said, it's incredibly freeing when you know that those things are built into your life and no matter how crazy and busy it gets, those things will
it will
happen.
happen. And family is important to me, and my mental health is important to me. And having
Mm,
calmness and peace, I want my kids to remember that and in their home.
mhm.
And so this is, the ways that I do this. And I'm not always perfect. No one is. And that's really not what I'm trying to achieve. I consider, organization is about being prepared. It's not about perfection. And it's interesting that you brought up a book, Rachel, because there's a book called The Female Brain and by Dr. Luann Brizantine. And she said that a sign of maternal thriving is predictability. And motherhood is
Mm.
unpredictable as is, which I think if you're listening, you know. You can come up with all the examples of the unpredictableness of motherhood. And that is what throws us, so many of us, out of alignment and often in a tailspin that we feel like we can't quite recover from. Like we're just half or one step or maybe 10 steps always behind. And so being mindful about being prepared and creating systems and smartly designing your schedule and home, again, not to perfection, but just into zones and kind of that enshrinement is a way for
Mm.
us as mothers to take away the chaos and to take control and to create more calm and peace and predictability in our motherhood.
Mm. Yes. So tell us about your zones that you have.
So, home zones. So, these are physical zones. I have a homework station. This is in our kitchen because that's typically where we do homework, like many people. And I simply just have all the supplies I need for homework ready and available there. I even have like a pencil sharpener and markers there and extra pieces of paper, lined paper, blank paper, whatever you need, it's all there. We designed it's not really a mudroom, it's like a hallway basically with some shelving and hooks. And so that is a zone where I can always, like I mentioned, if I'm heading out the door the night before, this is where I place everything.
Mm.
I also have chore boards. That is a zone where the kids can jump into that delegation and help out around the house. So those are prominent in our kitchen. I have three kids, so I have the three boards there. I also have a coffee and tea station. This section is very much a part of my morning and night routine. And it becomes kind of a ritual. I go to this drawer and this cabinet area for coffee and tea. It's important to me. I need that. And so, whatever it may be, maybe it's a smoothie station. I also have, I like to have a protein shake or make smoothies for my kids. And so I put some of the ingredients that I use for that on a shelf near the Vitamix blender. And then that is also designed near my freezer. So it's kind of all like right in a zone right there.
Mm.
And so if you don't have, maybe you can't think of where you could put that in your home, please don't think that it has to be this magnificent large area and perfectly organized with, Pinterest worthy, look to it. It can just be like a zone where you simply put your sunglasses every time. Or, this countertop is where every night when I'm making the kids' lunches or in the morning when I take the water bottles out, this is where I always place those items. So you just know. You don't have to think about
Mm.
it. This is where it goes.
Like you said, it eliminates the decision fatigue, which is
Mhm.
so huge for moms of and just the wasted time of not knowing where things are and trying to find them.
I
Which,
mean,
yeah, is
yeah.
yeah, if you just know things are always in these certain places, it can eliminate so much of that frustration as a mom. One question that I have with all of this, I hear it and I'm so inspired. I also do feel like it's doable.
Mhm,
But where does someone start? Like if you feel like you're starting from ground zero, you want to do it all, but maybe you know realistically you can't tackle zones and a
mhm.
night routine and paper organization like all in one day. Where
No.
how do you decide where to start?
So that is a great question. What I suggest when you're overwhelmed is that just be simple about it and just start. I really like starting with a drawer in your home. If you need to make a drawer for like lunch items or uh, back to school clothes for like there's kids supplies, anything, like a drawer is a very small, doable, not overwhelming physical space that anyone can organize with very limited time and effort and products that you might even need to organize it. It's not as overwhelming, and I think you'll be surprised to find that if you tackle one drawer, it might motivate you to get on board with some more physical spaces. Please don't try to do all that in one day. That's not what I'm suggesting, but pick one. If you were listening a couple minutes ago and one stood out to you, just try it. Just try it and then see if it sticks. And if it does, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, try something new.
And I know from the 3 takeaways you gave us today, the one that I'm going to start with is that night routine, because I really feel like that could have a domino effect on these other areas of my life too. If I simply have a consistent night routine, which will lead to a better morning, which leads to better everything when those things are flowing more easily.
Yes. And we cannot take care of our homes and our children and anything until we take care of ourselves. And that really does have a trickle effect.
I love that.
Okay, friends, which takeaway from this episode stood out to you? To be frank and a little vulnerable, it's humbling for me to revisit this episode and see that I am still working on a lot of these things, even though it's several years later. But also, we have come a long way in creating rhythms that work for our family, and I am proud of that. To recap, Mika's 3 takeaways are: first, create calm mornings with a solid night routine. I love Mika's tip to envision and write out the morning that you want to have with your family and then work backwards. What would you need to do the night before in order to have the peaceful morning that you visualize? Make a list and try it for a few days. This reminds me of what a former podcast guest, Crystal Payne, said about her evening routine. She said she thinks of it as serving her tomorrow self. Second, implement simple solutions for all the paper that comes from school, and remember that it's okay to throw some of it away. What to keep and what to toss is such a personal decision, but a few questions to ask yourself when deciding might be: does this show a milestone? Does it have a handprint or a photo on it? Does it spark joy when I see it or make me laugh? And I love Mika's tip to start an inbox where you can put all of the paper throughout the week and then just sort through it once a week to make your decisions. And third and final tip for home and life organization for the new school year: create zones in your home to help eliminate decision fatigue and create predictability. Some ideas include a homework station, a drop station for backpacks, shoes, and coats, or a coffee or smoothie station. This is also personal and will change depending on your needs, your space, and the ages of your kids. One of my favorite quotes from this episode was when Mika said that routines are not about rigidity. Routines create the space for the things you love and that matter to you. They are actually really freeing, end quote. As someone who is naturally not very good at routines, this reminder is just what I need as I get myself ready for the fresh start of the new school year. If, like me, these takeaways are not your strong suit, I want to end the episode by reminding you that it's okay. You can embrace your strengths, take an honest look at what you want, and go where your energy takes you. Most of all, be proud of yourself for the things you are doing and the ways that you are trying. I'll see you next week for a brand new episode of 3 in 30 after this series of encores. I can't wait, and I hope you have a beautiful week with your family.